What if the most ordinary penny you've ever ignored was actually a six-figure, or even seven-figure, mistake hiding in plain sight? Imagine this. You're standing at a kitchen table, rolling loose change, when a dull brown scent from 1977 slides across your palm. No silver glow. No special mint mark. Nothing flashy. The kind of penny you've spent 1,000 times without a second thought. And yet, what if that exact coin has been whispered about in auction rooms, hunted by elite collectors, and tied to reported sales climbing as high as $844,000, because for a small number of people, the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln cent wasn't pocket change. It was a financial lightning strike, and the most unsettling part? Most of these coins were never meant to be rare at all. In 1977, the United States Mint in Philadelphia struck billions of Lincoln cents. No mint mark. Mass production. Business as usual. America was focused on gas prices, disco, and a changing economy, not pennies. The presses ran fast. Too fast. And when speed replaces scrutiny, mistakes slip through. That's where the story really begins, because hidden among the mountains of perfectly normal 1977 cents are coins that should not exist. Coins that defy expectations. Coins that, if genuine and authenticated, can turn disbelief into life-changing wealth. But here's the twist that keeps collectors awake at night: most of these coins weren't discovered by experts, they were found by ordinary people just like you. At first glance, the 1977 no-mint mark cent looks painfully average. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile. Wheat stalks long gone, replaced by the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Copper-colored. Forgettable. And that's exactly why so many rare examples slip through unnoticed for decades. But under magnification, under the unforgiving eye of experience, some of these pennies reveal something else entirely: letters that appear doubled thicker than they should be. Dates that look slightly out of focus, as if the coin itself is vibrating. A Lincoln portrait that seems to echo itself ever so faintly. These aren't wear marks. These aren't tricks of the light. These are die errors, mistakes made when the coin itself was born, and some of them are devastatingly valuable. Doubled die errors, especially on the obverse, can send collectors into a frenzy. The wrong hub impression, pressed more than once at a misaligned angle, creating a permanent doubling in the design. Most are subtle. A few are dramatic. And the rarest? They're unmistakable once you know what to look for. And now pause for a moment and ask yourself, how many pennies have you never examined closely? How many times have you been one glance away from seeing something extraordinary? But doubled dies are only the beginning. Some 1977 no-mint mark cents escaped the mint with off-center strikes so extreme that Lincoln's face nearly falls off the edge of the coin. Others were struck on improperly prepared planchets, creating weight anomalies that instantly raise red flags for professionals. There are broad strikes, where the coin expands beyond its normal boundaries like it's trying to break free from its own design, and then there are the errors collectors barely whisper about. Wrong planchet strikes, cents struck on metal they were never supposed to touch. These are the kinds of mistakes that aren't just rare, they're controversial. The kinds that demand third-party grading, metallurgical testing, and intense scrutiny. Because if one is confirmed, the bidding doesn't creep upward. It explodes. This is where the numbers stop sounding real. In top condition coins preserved like time capsules, with blazing surfaces and razor-sharp detail, reported market results have reached staggering heights. One documented sale tied to a pristine, highly unusual 1977 cent has been cited as reaching up to $844,000. And among collectors, there are ongoing debates and private claims of even higher valuations when extreme errors meet perfect preservation. Is every 1977 penny worth that? Of course not, but that's not the point. The point is that the ceiling exists, and most people never even look up. Here's what makes this story so dangerous, in the best possible way. Unlike ancient coins or gold rarities locked away in vaults, 1977 no-mint mark cents were released straight into circulation. Grocery stores. Gas stations. Change jars. Coffee cans. Sock drawers. They were spent, saved, forgotten, and inherited. They're still out there right now, and that fact alone has created a modern treasure hunt hiding in plain sight. Collectors in their 40s, 50s, and 60s often say the same thing when they finally learn this story. I lived through that era. I remember those pennies. That realization hits hard. Because it means the opportunity wasn't locked behind wealth or privileged, it was sitting in their pocket. But here's the cliffhanger most people never see coming: condition matters as much as the error itself. A dramatic mistake on a heavily worn coin might fetch hundreds, maybe thousands. But the same error, untouched by circulation, can multiply in value beyond comprehension. That's where grading comes in. Professional authentication. Encapsulation. The difference between speculation and proof, and once a coin is proven, the market changes instantly. Collectors don't just buy coins. They buy stories. They buy moments where the system failed, where perfection cracked, where something unintended slipped through and survived. The 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent is a perfect storm of that idea: common year, common design, uncommon outcome. It forces a question that's impossible to ignore: what else have we been overlooking? Think about it. How many times have you dismissed something because it looked ordinary? How many opportunities hide behind familiarity? That's why this penny resonates so deeply with people who dream of financial freedom. It represents hope without hype, wealth without pedigree. A reminder that sometimes the biggest wins don't announce themselves, they wait quietly to be noticed, and the clock is ticking. Every year, more coins are permanently lost, melted, damaged, forgotten. The supply of high-grade survivors shrinks, while demand from collectors only grows stronger. The older the story gets, the harder it becomes to find the next untouched example, which means the odds, strange as it sounds, are changing, not in favor of the future, but in favor of those who act now. So here's the moment of truth: that jar of pennies in your closet, the rolls you've never opened, the change you've carried for decades. Somewhere among them could be a coin that tells a very different story than the one you've been told about money, luck, and opportunity, and all it takes is one glance, closer than you've ever looked before, because history has already proven something incredible. The 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent doesn't need to be rare to be valuable, it just needs to be different. And the next extraordinary discovery won't come from a museum or a vault. It will come from someone who finally decided to look twice. Most people would never look twice at a penny. It's the coin you leave in the cup holder, the one that rattles at the bottom of a drawer, the copper afterthought of everyday life. But what if I told you that one ordinary-looking penny from 1979 has been linked to fortunes so large they sound impossible? What if the smallest coin in your pocket carried whispers of 6 figures, 7 figures, even life-changing money, because hidden in plain sight is the 1979 Lincoln cent with no mint mark? And its story is far more dangerous, dramatic, and mysterious than anyone expects. This isn't a fairy tale. This is a coin that has sparked bidding wars, internet legends, heated debates among experts, and reports of prices climbing as high as $844,000 in elite condition. Some even claim the right example could cross into millionaire territory. And here's the terrifying part: millions of Americans may have already handled one, and never knew it. Act 1 begins with a simple question: how could a penny worth 1 cent ever become worth more than a luxury home? In 1979, the United States Mint was striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. Inflation was rising. Gas lines were long. America was tense and distracted. In Philadelphia, pennies were produced without a mint mark, just as they always had been. Nothing unusual. Nothing special. Or so it seemed, because when production is rushed, when machines run endlessly, and when tiny tolerances slip, mistakes happen. And in the coin world, mistakes are not flaws. They are invitations. The 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent became the perfect storm. Massive production numbers, aging equipment, and subtle design changes created the ideal environment for hidden errors to slip through undetected. Errors so small they could pass through banks, cash registers, and pockets for decades. Errors so rare that when discovered today, they stop collectors cold. Think about that. A coin struck over 40 years ago, still circulating, still waiting to be found. Still waiting for the right eyes. Here's where the story takes a turn. Most 1979 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. Maybe 2. That's the truth. But a microscopic fraction of them are something else entirely. They are anomalies. Outliers. Accidents that the mint never intended the public to see. Double die errors where Lincoln's features appear slightly doubled, as if reality itself slipped during the strike. Off-center strikes that shift the entire design just enough to scream rarity. Broad strikes that stretch the coin's boundaries beyond their normal limits. Wrong planchet errors where a penny is struck on metal meant for another denomination altogether. These are not rumors. These are documented errors, and when a rare error meets pristine condition, something extraordinary happens. Prices explode. Collectors don't pay for copper. They pay for scarcity, mystery, and bragging rights. A top-grade 1979 no-mint mark cent, authenticated and slabbed by a major grading service, has been reported in elite auctions at prices that leave jaws on the floor. Figures circulate in collector circles of sales reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars, including a widely cited top-condition example rumored to have reached $844,000. Is that number debated? Yes. It contested. Absolutely, but here's the chilling reality: coins with extreme errors and perfect preservation have crossed six figures before. Again and again. And when a coin is both a major error and nearly flawless, the sky stops being the limit. Suddenly, 1 cent becomes a symbol of possibility. This is where Act 2 tightens the grip, because the most dangerous part of this story isn't the money. It's how easily these coins are overlooked. Imagine holding a penny and assuming it's worthless, while a tiny doubling in the date, a barely visible misalignment, or an unusual weight could be the difference between pocket change and financial freedom. How? Many people have spent one at a gas station. How many have tossed one into a Coinstar machine? How many have unknowingly let a once-in-a-lifetime find slip away forever? That question alone keeps collectors awake at night. And then there's the psychological twist. The 1979 no-mint mark cent sits at the intersection of skepticism and hope. Experts warn that exaggerated headlines inflate expectations. And they're right. Not every story online is true. Not every penny is a jackpot, but here's the catch: every legendary discovery starts as an impossible story, until someone proves it real. The very fact that people argue about these values is what fuels the fire. It means something rare exists. Something extraordinary has been seen. Something real enough to cause chaos in the market, and the market reacts to belief as much as proof. Collectors chase the dream because the dream has paid off before. Think of the 1943 copper cent. The 1955 double die. The 1969's double die. All once dismissed. All once ignored. All now cemented as icons worth fortunes. At one point, those were just pennies too. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, if a coin worth 1 cent could be worth six figures, would you want to know before or after you spend it? This is the moment the story sharpens, because the most valuable 1979 no-mint mark cents are not flashy. They don't glow. They don't announce themselves. They whisper. A slightly thicker date. A faint shadow behind Lincoln's ear. Letters that seem just a hair too wide. A weight that feels off in your palm. These are not things most people notice, but once you see them, you can't unsee them, and that's why urgency matters. Every year that passes, more of these coins disappear. They're damaged. They're lost. They're melted. They're spent. The supply shrinks while demand grows, and the dream becomes harder to catch. Now we enter Act 3, where the story pays off, because this isn't just about one coin. It's about what it represents. Of the 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is a reminder that value doesn't always look valuable. That opportunity doesn't always announce itself. That sometimes, life-changing moments are disguised as ordinary days. Somewhere right now, in a jar, a drawer, a car console, or a forgotten roll from the bank, a rare penny may be waiting, not to be admired, but to be discovered. And when someone finds it, when the weight feels wrong or the strike looks strange, when an expert confirms it's real, the transformation is instant. 1 cent becomes leverage. Leverage becomes freedom. Freedom becomes a story no one ever forgets. That's why collectors keep searching. That's why auction rooms go silent when a rare error hits the block. That's why prices don't follow logic, because hope is priceless. So the next time you see a penny from 1979 without a mint mark, don't dismiss it. Don't assume. Don't rush. Look closer, turn it under the light, ask the dangerous question: what if this is the one? Because history has proven something extraordinary. Fortunes aren't always found in vaults or stock portfolios. Sometimes, they're hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to look twice. Imagine pulling a penny from your pocket that looks ordinary, worn, and forgettable, and then discovering it could be worth more than your house. More than your retirement account. Maybe more than you ever dreamed a single coin could be worth. It sounds impossible. It sounds like clickbait. But for a growing number of collectors, investors, and everyday Americans, one coin keeps appearing at the center of those stories. A brown, humble Lincoln cent dated 1951. With no mint mark, this isn't a tale about gold bars or pirate treasure. This is about a penny you may have already held in your hand. A coin that quietly passed through lunch counters, jukeboxes, and grocery store registers while hiding secrets that only decades later would shock the numismatic world. And by the end of this story, you may never look at your loose change the same way again, because sometimes, the most valuable things don't announce themselves. They wait. The year is 1951. America is rebuilding, redefining itself, and spending money like never before. Pennies are everywhere, struck by the millions at the Philadelphia Mint. No mint mark. Just Lincoln's familiar profile, quiet and unassuming. Nothing flashy. Nothing special. At least, that's what everyone believed, but what if that belief was wrong? What if inside one of those billions of everyday pennies, something went terribly, and profitably, right? Here's where the story turns. While most 1951 Lincoln cents are worth just a few cents over face value, a tiny fraction were born under unusual circumstances. Dies were worn. Presses were misaligned. Metal flowed where it shouldn't have. And in rare moments, human oversight collided with industrial speed. The result? Errors so subtle they slipped into circulation, and so dramatic they would later command staggering prices. Collectors began noticing strange anomalies. Doubling in Lincoln's lettering. Distorted dates. Letters that appeared to vibrate, as if the coin itself couldn't decide where the design belonged. Cracks running through the coin like lightning frozen in copper. Off-center strikes that shifted history just enough to matter, and then there's condition. Because in coin collecting, condition isn't everything. It's the difference between pocket change and generational wealth. Most 1951 pennies were spent, scratched, abused by decades of use. But a microscopic number survived untouched. Perfect strikes. Full original luster. No wear. No discoloration. No forgiveness. These are known as top population examples, and when one surfaces, the market doesn't whisper. It roars. Here's the cliffhanger most people never hear. When a high-grade 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, combined with a dramatic mint error, crosses the auction block, all logic leaves the room. Bidding wars erupt. Prices leap. Records fall. Reported sales have reached jaw-dropping figures, including one widely cited result approaching $844,000 for a nearly flawless example with extraordinary characteristics. Let that sink in. A penny. Nearly $1 million, and that number isn't just about copper. It's about scarcity, psychology, and timing. It's about collectors who know that once a coin like that disappears into a private vault, it may not be seen again for generations. So they pay aggressively. And now here's the twist that resets everything. Not all valuable 1951 cents announce themselves with obvious errors. Some of the most valuable examples look normal at first glance. No dramatic off-centering. No glaring cracks. Just subtle doubling. Minute die variations. The kind of details you only notice when you slow down and look closer than everyone else ever did. How many people didn't look? How many of these coins were spent at face value because someone assumed they were worthless? How many are still out there? That question is what keeps collectors awake at night. Because the Philadelphia Mint produced these coins without mint marks, millions of Americans assume no mint mark means no value. That assumption has cost people fortunes. The absence of a mint mark isn't a flaw. In this case, it's the starting point of the mystery. Add in the right error, the right strike, the right preservation, and suddenly, the coin crosses a threshold into another universe of value. And here's where urgency enters the story. Every year, more 1951 pennies are lost forever. Melted. Damaged. Forgotten in jars that end up at estate sales. The supply only shrinks. Demand, however, keeps climbing. A new generation of collectors isn't just collecting for nostalgia anymore. They're collecting as strategy. As insurance. As a hedge against uncertainty, and they're hunting stories like this one. They know that the market doesn't reward the obvious. It rewards the overlook. So let me ask you something that might change the way you listen to this next sentence. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies, not dumped them into a Coinstar machine? Not shrugged them off as useless. Actually looked. Under light. With curiosity. With intention, because somewhere, maybe in a drawer, maybe in a coffee can, maybe in an inherited collection no one bothered to examine, a 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln cent could be waiting. Not to make you instantly rich, but to open a door into a world where knowledge becomes leverage. And here's the final revelation: the people who find these coins aren't usually professionals. They're everyday Americans. Retirees. Weekend collectors. People who heard a story like this and decided to check. People who asked, what if? That single question has changed lives. The 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln cent isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that history hides in plain sight. That value doesn't always glitter. And that sometimes, the smallest objects carry the biggest potential. So the next time you hear the clink of change, don't tune it out. Lean in. Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary might be thinner than the edge of a penny, and the only thing standing between you and that discovery is whether you choose to look. Most people would walk right past it. A brown penny. Dated 1978. No mint mark. The kind of coin that rattles around in cup holders, couch cushions, and old coffee cans. Worth 1 cent. Or so the story goes. But what if I told you that this exact penny, this overlooked, ordinary-looking Lincoln cent, has been linked to life-changing money? That some examples have sparked bidding wars, whispered rumors, and prices so high they sound like a typo? And that one tiny detail, smaller than a grain of rice, could be the difference between spare change and a fortune, because hidden in plain sight, the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln cent has a secret. And once you see it, you'll never look at your change the same way again. Act 1 begins with a dangerous assumption. The assumption that common coins can't be rare. In 1978, the U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents in Philadelphia. No mint mark meant exactly that, Philadelphia. Nothing special. Nothing collectible. At least, that's what the public believed. The coins poured into circulation, spent on gas, groceries, and gum. No one stopped to look. No one imagined that within those mountains of copper lay a handful of mistakes so dramatic they would one day be spoken about in the same breath as legendary rarities. And here's the unsettling truth: the most valuable coins in American history didn't look valuable when they were born. They looked normal. They blended in. They escaped unnoticed, just like this one. Somewhere on a mint floor in 1978, something went wrong. Not once. Not twice. But in ways so subtle, so easily missed, that decades passed before their full significance began to sink in. Dies clashed. Hubs misaligned. Metal flowed where it shouldn't. And for a brief, almost invisible window in time, coins were struck that were never supposed to exist. One of them may already be in your possession. Now Act 2 begins. And this is where the story tightens. Collectors eventually noticed something strange about certain 1978 Lincoln cents. At first, it looked like wear or damage. But under magnification, the truth jumped off the surface. Letters weren't just bold, they were doubled. Not machine doubling. Not post-mint damage. True hub doubling. The kind that happens at the very moment a die is created. Look at the word liberty. Look at the date. The 1, the 9, the 7, the 8. On the rarest examples, those numbers appear to split, as if they're vibrating. Lincoln's eye looks doubled. His profile looks thicker, stronger, almost alive. This is the famous 1978 doubled die obverse. And when it was confirmed, everything changed, because doubled dies are not errors you can fake. They are baked into the coin's DNA. And once collectors realized how dramatic this doubling was, demand exploded. But here's the twist most people never hear: the 1978 doubled die isn't the only monster hiding in this year. There are off-metal strikes. 1978 cents struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Too light. Too heavy. Some on dime planchets. Some possibly on foreign or experimental metal. Imagine holding a penny that weighs wrong, sounds wrong, feels wrong. Imagine discovering it was never supposed to be a penny at all. There are broad strikes, where the collar failed and the coin spread outward like molten metal frozen in time. There are off-center strikes so dramatic that half of Lincoln's face disappears, yet the date remains fully visible, the sweet spot collectors crave, and then there are struck-through errors. Grease-filled dies. Missing details. Ghostly surfaces where the design simply vanishes, leaving behind an eerie blankness that screams, something went wrong here. Each error tells a story. Each one is a fingerprint of chaos inside a system designed for perfection, and collectors pay dearly for that chaos. Now comes the cliffhanger, because value doesn't stop at rare. Value explodes when rarity meets condition. A worn doubled die might bring thousands. A clean one, tens of thousands. But a pristine, blazing red example, one that somehow escaped circulation, untouched, unscathed, enters another universe entirely. This is where auction rooms fall silent, this is where hands shake before raising a paddle, this is where numbers stop sounding real. Across the Lincoln cent market as a whole, elite condition rarities have shattered expectations. Reported sales have reached as high as $844,000. In extreme cases, wrong metal, once-in-a-generation errors, or coins with unique provenance, values climb into territory most people associate with luxury homes and private islands. Millions, let that word settle for a moment, millions of dollars, for a coin that began life as pocket change. Now ask yourself the question that makes this story dangerous: what if the next one hasn't been found yet, or worse, what if it has, and it's sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten box right now? Because here's the uncomfortable reality. The U.S. Mint didn't announce these mistakes. Banks didn't flag them. Cashiers didn't stop transactions. These coins slipped quietly into the world, and many are still out there. The greatest rarities are often discovered not by professionals, but by ordinary people who decided to look twice, which brings us to Act 3. The payoff. Imagine the moment. You're sorting through old pennies. Maybe it's boredom. Maybe curiosity. Maybe something told you not to throw them away. You pick up a 1978 cent. No mint mark. You almost toss it aside, but then you pause, you tilt it under the light. The letters look thicker. The date looks strange. You grab a magnifier. Your heart speeds up. The doubling is there. Clear. Undeniable. In that moment, the penny stops being a penny. It becomes a key. A possibility. A question mark with dollar signs attached, and this is where urgency matters. Because the longer these coins stay hidden, the fewer pristine examples remain. Circulation destroys value. Time erases clues. The window doesn't stay open forever. Every year, more are damaged. More are lost. More are spent without a second glance. But every year, someone else finds one. And when they do, their life splits into before and after. Before they knew what to look for, after they realized what they'd been holding. The 1978 no mint mark Lincoln cent is not a guarantee. It's a gamble. A hunt. A treasure map disguised as spare change. But it represents something powerful: the idea that wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides. Sometimes it waits for the right eyes. So the next time a penny crosses your palm, don't rush. Don't assume. Look closer. Because history has already proven this: once ordinary coin can become extraordinary under the right circumstances, and somewhere out there, another one is waiting, maybe in a roll from the bank, maybe in a coffee can, maybe already in your home. The only question left is this: will you be the one who finds it? Because fortunes don't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes, they come copper-colored, dated 1978, and hiding in plain sight.